quite possibly might be ready now. We shall soon see. So starting, oh, there we go. Welcome, guys. It is that time again. It's time for Let's Talk College Football Rankings. Time to talk college football rankings. We're going to start with the top four. This week we still have Clemson at number 1, Alabama number 2, Iowa State Hawkeyes are at number 3, OU is number 4, followed with Michigan State 5 and Notre Dame at 6. I do believe this week the college football playoffs are finally, the committee is finally showing some love to the Sooners and to the Big 12. It's been a long road, and finally the Big 12 is getting some love with putting OU at number 3. Although OU did jump a large amount. They went from 7-3 with a 1-point win over TCU. So that is a little, weird that would happen, like it did. But, things work out in the end. And OU's number 3. It's going to be hard to knock the Big 12 out of the top 3 as long as OU wins next week and nothing crazy happens. So we've got OU number 3, Iowa State number 4. Also, they were sitting at number 5 last week, so since Ohio State lost and they move up one, I do believe that's fairly accurate. They are undefeated, and I think that they should give some emphasis to undefeated teams. Even though Iowa plays a very ugly form of ball, I think it's fine. They're number 4. They deserve to be there because they have not lost. Okay, then you want to follow that up with Alabama at number 2, which when Alabama got ranked number 2, everyone was angry and upset, and they are still ranked number 2. I don't know if they really deserve to be there because I don't think they could hang with any of the teams in the top 4. I think they would definitely lose to Iowa. I think they would lose to Iowa. I think they would get crushed by OU or Clemson just because of their offense are awesome. And Alabama's defense is good. Don't get me wrong, their defense is good. But their whole offense is run the ball, and that's pretty much it. They don't throw the ball. Coker is not that great of a quarterback. So if they were to get in a contest where they had to throw the ball a lot, I think that it would end very, very badly for Alabama. I think they would get smoked hard. Especially if you can, look at their loss to Ole Miss. Ole Miss, their offense was clicking. They were throwing the ball, and their defense just couldn't hang with, that, especially not their offense. The offense turned the ball over, and everyone's like, well, they turned the ball over 5 times. That's true. They turned the ball over 5 times because they were trying to keep up, and their offense is not built for that. Their offense is built to run the ball with Henry, and that's pretty much it. Clemson wins again this week also, and they're still at number 1. Clemson this week actually has a matchup against South Carolina, which it doesn't seem like much, but South Carolina is playing pretty decent right now, and I think that they may give them a run for their money. You never know. The big game is going to be their game against North Carolina that's coming up, and that will be something to see. North Carolina with that offense is just racking up points and victories right now, and I think that's going to be a tough one for them coming up. OU plays Oklahoma State this weekend. Oklahoma State, with their only loss being to Baylor. And after watching the Baylor game last week with Oklahoma State and Baylor, I was actually very disappointed in Oklahoma State. I thought that their defense would do a lot better than they did. Their defense did not keep up whatsoever. I mean, it was ridiculously bad. You let a third-string quarterback come in there and just chunk it around. It was not impressive. I really hope they don't have a bounce-back week against OU, because then that would knock the Big 12 out of the top 4, and it would definitely be hard for any Big 12 team to get back up in there, barring a massacre of the top 4. Because I don't think, no matter what Alabama does, they will not get demoted unless they lose hardcore to somebody coming up here pretty quick. Alabama does play Auburn their next game. God, a lot of people are like, oh, it's the Iron Bowl and it's Auburn and it's going to be a tough game, and I don't think so. I think that Alabama's going to win that one fairly, not easily, maybe 14 points, but I don't think they're going to lose to Auburn because, I mean, they're just not looking pretty right now. Iowa has a big game coming up. They're going to get a play in the championship against either Ohio State, Michigan, or Michigan State. And I was actually really shocked to see Ohio State last week. I mean, they looked bad against Michigan State. When you have a team only pass the ball one time in the second half, once. They passed the ball one time in the second half. That was it, just once. You should win that game. I mean, they had no passing game whatsoever. It was just run, 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 and could not be stopped. So I don't think Ohio State's really going to have a chance. I think there's a chance they could lose to Michigan this weekend. I've got a feeling that Michigan is going to beat Ohio State, especially with the way Ezekiel Elliott's been going off this week about not getting to touch the ball enough, and I think they're going to have a hard time against Michigan. On that note, speaking of Ezekiel Elliott and his little tirade, I don't understand how he's going to get to start this week after going off on his coaches and coaching staff like he did, and especially saying he's not going to come back next year for sure. And he technically said he is done. He's never going to play again for Ohio State. I don't see how you can let him do that to the media and just, call out everyone and no punishment for that. So I definitely don't agree with the fact that he's going to be playing this week. I think that at least he should set out the first half. He needs to have some type of punishment for his actions and, for what was said about his team. I definitely don't think that was okay, cool, anything like that. I just don't like the way that he did that, and I don't think it was fair, appropriate, anything like that. So moving on, we have Michigan State at number 5, Notre Dame at number 6. Notre Dame this week is going to be playing Nebraska. If Nebraska wins this game, they're going to be bowl eligible. Nebraska's going to come hard, and they're going to come to play. And I think that if Notre Dame doesn't watch out, they could lose that game. They had a poor showing this last week. It was ridiculously poor. So we've got Notre Dame at number 6 with a chance to, improve their stock, I guess, against Nebraska. I've not been really impressed by Notre Dame at all this year. Following Notre Dame, we have Baylor at number 7. Baylor is 9-1. They're going to be playing TCU this week. Baylor may be down to their third-string quarterback, but TCU also is down to their third-string quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see how that game plays out. Baylor sitting at number 7, definitely still is not out of the running for the playoffs. Say if something crazy happens, like Alabama loses and Clemson loses, and say Iowa loses in the championship game to either Michigan State, or Ohio State, Notre Dame loses to Stanford. I mean, Baylor's sitting right there with the chance to be up in the top 4. Ohio State's sitting at number 8. They also still technically are not out of the running. I think once you get down to Stanford, I don't think that any of those teams really has a chance of making the playoffs. Like, Stanford still has to play Notre Dame, but Notre Dame hasn't been that impressive, and Stanford has 2 losses, and I don't see how they could put a 2-loss Stanford ahead of a 1-loss anybody. So that's definitely, I don't think, gives them a chance whatsoever. Florida actually dropped to number 12 this week. Florida almost lost to Florida Atlantic this week, which was embarrassing. I don't understand how you can play Florida Atlantic, and they literally almost lost that game. If the refs had called a few penalties here and there, Florida Atlantic probably would have won that game. Number 13 is Florida State. 14 is North Carolina. Like I said, North Carolina is going on a tear right now. And if I was Clemson, I would be worried about North Carolina. I mean, they are going to come to play ranked 14th, playing Clemson. I mean, that's going to be a game right there. And I think North Carolina will pull that one out and will beat Clemson. The question is, if Clemson loses, who's going to be number 1? And I think it's going to be Alabama, even though I'm not that impressed with Alabama. I do think they deserve to be in the top 4 right now. I didn't think they deserved to be in the top 4 a few weeks ago. But the fact that they've only got 1 loss, they're going to go play in their conference championship game. If they win that, they deserve to be in, and I will not complain whatsoever. That's fine. Navy sitting at number 15, 9-1. Navy has actually played really well this year, and I'm impressed with Navy. They're doing fantastic. Then you have 16's Northwestern, 17 is Oregon. Oregon won again this week. That was an impressive win. Then you have Ole Miss at number 18, which Ole Miss, oh God, Ole Miss. Last week I was gonna start my channel last week, and I decided to wait till this week to get everything going and post my first video. I was so upset last week that Ole Miss went from being unranked to being ranked after doing nothing. They didn't even play last week. They were idle. And they went from unranked to ranked. And I was like, what? How did they move up? The last time people saw them play, they were getting spanked by Arkansas. So they're at 18. I definitely think they are ranked that high to boost Alabama's strength of schedule, whatever you want to call it. They're just there because there's like, well, Alabama lost to Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is ranked, whatever. I think that's why Ole Miss is ranked right now. TCU still in at number 19 after having 2 losses. I am shocked, as much as the College Football Committee hates the Big 12. I was super shocked to see that TCU is still ranked in the top 20. I know they only lost by 1 point to Oklahoma. They failed on a 2-point conversion, which was a horrible, horrible call to go for a 2-point there. But in the end, it worked out well. I am from Oklahoma, so I did root for my Sooners. So that was a horrible idea. But they're still ranked in the top 20, which, like I said, I'm shocked at 9-2 because the committee does not like the Big 12 right now. Washington State up to number 20. I like Washington State. Mississippi State 21. Another one of those. I don't know why they're really ranked that high. You have UCLA at number 22. Utah at 23. Both those teams are 8-3. Utah lost, and they dropped big time. What were they? They were ranked 13 last week. They lost to Oregon, I do believe it was. But they moved from 13 to 23rd. That's a massive drop. Toledo in at 24th at 9-1. Then you have Temple in here at 9-2 in the top to round out the top 25. I do think that there are some teams that should be ranked a little higher. Speaking of Toledo, a 9-1 team who is 24th, I understand the conference they play in. I understand all that, but you have 3 loss teams ranked above a 1 loss team, and it's hard for me to go okay with that. Then that's pretty much it for the rankings this week. Like I said, Clemson does come in number 1, Alabama number 2, OU number 3, and then you have Iowa State at number 4, Michigan 5, Notre Dame 6. Oh man, Iowa State, they play some ugly football, but they win, and that's really all that matters. They win, they win, they win. Still shocked, Houston dropped out. I know they dropped out of the rankings. They will play Navy this week. Navy's pretty impressive. We'll see how that game goes. Other key matchups we have this week, it's rivalry week, so Oregon State, Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan. That's an 8-10 matchup. Clemson, South Carolina. I don't think that South Carolina's going to put up much of a fight in that one. We'll see. Colorado at Utah. Colorado has been stepping it up a little bit this year. I know they're 4-8, 1-7 in the Pac-12, but I do like the way they've been playing, and I think that they're not too far off from being a decent team. Penn State plays Michigan State. Penn State 7-4, 4-3 in the Big Ten. This game's pretty important because if Michigan State loses, they will not be able to play for the championship. So, it's going to be an important game. I'd like to see. Technically, I don't mind Michigan State. I hope Connor Cook comes back to play. I'm a Connor Cook fan. I think he's a good quarterback, and we'll see just what happens there. Northwestern plays Illinois. Meh. North Carolina plays North Carolina State. North Carolina should win that one going away. I know North Carolina State is 7-4. They're 3-4 in the ACC, but North Carolina, I do think, will just romp North Carolina State. Like I said, Alabama, Auburn, not going to be much of a game, I don't think. UCLA plays USC. That game's going to be close. Both teams 5-3 in the Pac-12. USC, I'm really liking Josh Rosen right now. I'm not a huge fan, but I do like him, and I think that they're going to go in, and I do think they might pull off the upset against UCLA. Temple plays Connecticut. Yeah, I know. It's UConn. Ole Miss plays Mississippi State, which, I think that Ole Miss is going to win that one. I don't think, Dak Prescott's not going to be playing. I'm trying to think who their starting quarterback's going to be this week, but I can't really remember. Florida State plays Florida. That should be a pretty decent game. I do think Florida State's going to win that one because Florida looked awful last week. I mean awful. Their coach compared that game to them playing like dead fish. Okay, when your coach compares you to a cold, dead fish, wow, you've got problems. Notre Dame's going to play Stanford this week. Notre Dame, Stanford's going to be an interesting game. I don't think Notre Dame stands a chance, but I'm not a big Stanford fan either. Like, if you shut down Christian McCaffrey, they're just not that good. Like, I don't know. Their passing game's not that great. A lot of people like Stanford's quarterback. I think he's okay. I don't think he's the second coming of, Andrew Luck, like a lot of people do. We'll see, but I think that game will be a close game, and it will be a fun game to watch. And then finally, you got Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, which after seeing Oklahoma State play Baylor, they may come back with a vengeance, play tough, play rough. We shall see. I personally like Oklahoma in that game, and I think Oklahoma needs it to save the Big 12 from getting shut out of the college football playoffs yet again. That would be horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible for the Big 12. Right now, all the news that I know is quarterback Connor Cook. They're saying is likely to be a game time decision coming up this week. Not for sure if he's going to start or not. There's talk about Les Miles not being with LSU next year. We shall see. I don't know why you would fire Les Miles, because you're not going to get another coach that's going to bring your team wins like Les Miles has. It's not like you're going to get a new coach and you're going to go undefeated. That's not normally the way it works. But there is a lot of talk that Les Miles will leave or get fired, so we shall see what happens there. And, we'll go from there. We'll see what happens and see what the future holds for these teams. So right now, those are my playoffs. I'm not too angry. I'm not going to throw a fit right just yet about the rankings. I was very angry a few weeks ago about Alabama being ranked, but after seeing some of these teams play, I can understand. Like Iowa, love you, Iowa. You guys are undefeated, and I'm proud of you. But my God, you are hard to watch. OU, I can't believe they lost to Texas, but they are definitely stepping it up right now, and they've went on a streak of 6 wins in a row. They've beaten 2 ranked teams so far, and Baylor and then TCU, and they're going to have a chance to beat a fairly high-ranked Oklahoma State team, which I think, what are they, 11 right now? 11. So we'll see what happens there. I'm excited. I'm excited for that game. I think that we'll see what happens, but I am very excited to see that. So yeah, my anger has subsided a little bit right now. I think Michigan State definitely deserves to be ranked 5, if not a little bit higher. Notre Dame, I'm not a believer in Notre Dame right now. I watched them play this week, and oh my, that was ugly. They tried to give that game away so many times. Was it 5, 6 turnovers? Whew, God, that was an ugly game. I definitely think they deserved to lose a spot in the rankings, so that makes me happy that they have moved down to 6. I don't think there's a lot they can do to move into the playoffs. If everyone in the top 4 right now doesn't lose, if Clemson wins out, if Alabama wins out, Iowa State wins out, or OU wins out, I don't think there's any way that Michigan State, Notre Dame, or anyone else will jump into the top 4 ahead of them, just because of the fact that OU had the number 1 strength of schedule to end the season. So they're going to go in and beat 3 ranked teams 3 weeks in a row to end their run here at the end. Alabama's got a chance to play in the championship game. Clemson's going to play North Carolina, and they're ranked number 1, undefeated. So if they don't lose out, there's no way they'll drop out. Iowa State, if they win out, they're going to beat either Ohio State, Michigan, or Michigan State, and that's going to be impressive. Plus, they're going to be undefeated. You can't keep an undefeated Iowa out of the top 4. I just don't see how that happens. Even though they're rough to watch, I would love to see an Iowa State-Alabama matchup. That would remind me so much of the Alabama-LSU game. What was it? Like 3-6 a few years back. I think that game would be ugly, hard-fought, boring game that hopefully Alabama would not win. Not against Alabama. I'm just not a big fan of the SEC and the SEC bias. I've looked up some of these schedules, like I've looked up Alabama's schedule, and everyone talks about the Big 12's non-conference schedule, saying they don't play anybody. Well, if you look at Alabama's non-conference schedule, they've played Wisconsin, Middle Tennessee, and Charleston Southern. And then you add in a little bit of Louisiana Monroe. It's not like their non-conference schedule was that difficult either. So you know what I'm saying? Like, it is in the eye of the beholder. There's a lot of people that love the SEC and talk about how they just go through and they just play each other, they knock each other out. It's that they just devour each other because it's the vaunted SEC. Well, every conference does that. Every conference plays each other. Every conference, beats other teams in their conference. It hurts their schedules. It hurts their rankings. It hurts everything. It happens for every single conference, not just the SEC. Look at the Big 12. We had Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. Look how that's went out. There is nobody undefeated left in the Big 12 right now because we all played each other. When you play the best teams in your conference, you're going to lose, okay? You're not going to go undefeated because every team's conference is different. Every team plays rough games. So we'll just have to see what happens. But in closing, thank you guys for stopping by, checking out the channel. Please give the video a thumbs up, like, subscribe. We'll come back. We'll have more videos. We'll be complaining. We'll be bitching. We'll be throwing fits. Right now, I'm actually happy. Big 12's in. And we'll see what happens after this. Notre Dame's fallen. And I'm completely happy with the rankings as of this moment. But we'll see what happens. Check back later. There'll be new videos every day. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.